The United States of America is one of the oldest democracies in the world. Their right to vote for their leaders extend to their head of state, the president, their representatives, their senators, and many more. This right also extends to their governors of their states. Thus said, it would be surprising to hear that one of their states, Louisiana, was literally run by a man with authoritarian, almost dictatorial tendencies. But how? How on earth could that have happened? 1928, Louisiana, a southern state. Most southern states by this point had effectively been one party states, anyways, since the Republicans were just so unpopular with many white southerners, since they were promising shocking, radical left policies like racial equality. This effectively meant that anti racial equality folks, white southerners, were against the Republican Party, and thus naturally they supported their rivals, the Democratic Party. The fact that poll taxes and literacy tests were legal in southern states, which African Americans would always fail because the school system discriminated against them, meant that really only white men got to vote, despite the 13th Amendment outlawing that. And since the white Southerners were also vehemently opposed to equality with African Americans, since the white Southerners all supported the Democratic Party, since African Americans who all supported Republicans couldn't vote, this meant the Democrats would always win. The Democrats effectively ran most of their former Confederate states as one-party states anyway. Basically, the Democrats were pretty much authoritarian in the southern states, which is a perfect climate to create a dictator. In one of the most racist states, no, not that one, no, not that one, no, not that one, no, not that one either. Yes, Louisiana gave rise to our main talking point here, Huey Long. Long was a lawyer for 8 years before announcing that he would run for governor in the 1924 election. Long stumped throughout the state personally campaigning with voters. He actually sounded something like a socialist when he promised that he would undo all of the hurtful government problems hurting the planter class. Despite that, he was eliminated in the Democratic primary. He then spent the next 4 years trying to fix his reputation. His big break came in 1927, with the poor government response to the 1927 Great Mississippi Flood that affected the Cajun community, as well as the whole state of Mississippi, and the surrounding states, of course, like Louisiana. Long started his campaign with huge support from the Cajuns. Long won the Democratic primary and also the gubernatorial election, and was sworn in on May the 21st, 1928. He quickly consolidated power, firing hundreds of opponents in the state bureaucracy, all at ranks from cabinet-level heads of departments to state road workers. Under Long's governorship, he taught 100,000 adults how to read, contributed to a 20% increase in school enrollment, modernized public health facilities. He made the first $2,000 in property tax assessment free, waiving property taxes for half of Louisiana's residences, and increased labor protections. He also increased funding for hospitals, expanded services for poor residents, adding in slots for black nurses, abolished the aforementioned poll tax, instead taxing powerful corporations to fund his projects, and transformed Louisiana State University into a major, successful university. Long's policies have been described as a precursor to the New Deal enacted by President Franklin Roosevelt. Long was very popular amongst the poor, rural, and especially African American communities for helping them succeed. As the governor of Louisiana, Long didn't let anybody else get a whiff of power, making sure that only he would run the state. His mass firing of the establishment politicians, while an authoritarian move, a necessary one for his people. In 1932, Long did not seek a second term, because in 1930, he was literally elected to the U.S. Senate while serving as governor. He served as a senator for the state of Louisiana until 1935. On the 8th of September, 1935, Carl Weiss, a young physician, got upset that Huey Long had voted on a bill to gerrymander the district of his father-in-law, Judge Benjamin Henry Pavey. At 9:20 p.m., Weiss approached Long and shot him once in the torso. Long's bodyguard shot Weiss over 60 times, but not one shot was enough to save Huey Long who died 2 days later on September the 10th, 1935. Despite many convincing points of evidence pointing away from Weiss being the shooter, such as no autopsy being performed on Long, leading to the theory that Long had actually been killed by a stray bullet from his bodyguard, it is generally accepted that Weiss fired that bullet. Anyways, Long is known to Louisianans as the man that saved their state from absolute poverty, while also being authoritarian in nature since he fired opponents in the state bureaucracy. Long is thus considered a dictator who used his power for good. Stick around for next time, where I go over why Maine nearly got the United States into another war with Great Britain.